Hi there, I am Dr. Clint Lanier at New Mexico State University, and today we are going to talk about the difference between writing in the workplace and writing at school. Okay, for those of you in my English 512, 412 class, this is just really a supplement to the readings, kind of talking about my experience and some of the things that I see that are the important differences, but this does not in any way take the place of the readings that I've asked you to do. Okay, those have a lot of specifics that you're going to want to use in your discussion and in your concept analysis. Okay, this is really just for kind of setting the table for the module. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? So these are the differences in my experience. These are the things that I see. Now your readings again are going to list some very specific differences. They're going to talk about a lot of different items that I might not list, but these are some of the things that I just want to specifically talk about. The first is audience, second is purpose, third is content, then media, the stakes, the process, and that's it. So those are some of the biggest differences that I see. There are a lot of smaller nuanced differences that your readings will go over again, but these are some of the biggest differences that I see between writing in the workplace and then writing for academia, for writing in school. Let's talk about audience first, okay? So what are some of the differences between audience, when it comes to audience in the types of writing? Well, first of all, you're not just writing to some stuffy professor like me, or any of your other stuffy professors. That's fairly obvious, right? That's actually also one of the hardest parts, one of the most difficult parts about transitioning from the classroom to the workplace setting, is that, you know, when we're writing in school, we are so sure of who we're writing to, right? And I think so. We're so sure, in fact, that what we typically do as students, or what I see students do, and I'm sure I did this myself, was you turn in your first paper just to sort of see how that professor grades, right? What is it that they're looking for? Oh, and after that first paper comes back, now I got it. And now I know how to design my paper based on that particular audience, right? Which is the professor. That makes it pretty easy, doesn't it? With the exception of that first paper that you might bomb, every paper after that, if you're paying attention, every paper after that really can then be kind of a walk in the park, right? Because you know what that person's looking for. If they say you didn't use enough citations, well, now I know that I need to use more citations. If they say, you know, you didn't make this long enough, well, now I know that I need to make it longer. And so they guide me. And sometimes in school you have, you know, multiple revisions that you can do, so you can raise your grade and things like that. Well, obviously in the workplace, none of that happens, right? If you are writing a document for the stockholders of a company, you don't know who those people are. You don't know what kind of information they're looking for. You don't know what kind of information they might need. You don't know anything about them. It's this kind of audience, this imaginary audience that you probably never even see or meet. Those are the people that you have to write to. So it's a lot harder to figure out, you know, what it is somebody wants when you're writing in the workplace versus writing in school. Audience is a main thing. Audience is also typically, let me back up. There are typically multiple different audiences. Okay, by the way, if you are not familiar with audience analysis or discussion of audiences, if you need a refresher, I've also, and you're in my class, I've posted the lecture about audience here as well, so that you can kind of get that refresher. If you don't have that background information, you have to read that, okay? You have to understand audience when doing technical communication, okay? But anyway, so typically in school, there is one audience that you have to consider, and again, that's the professor. You really don't have to make anybody else happy about that. Now, it might be a little bit different. Say you're working on a master's thesis, or maybe you're working on a doctoral dissertation, and you have maybe a whole group of, you know, a committee of people to make happy in that case. But again, they're probably all going to be kind of looking at the same thing, looking for the same things, and so forth. The simple truth about audiences is that when you write something, say you write that stockholders report, well, who all might it go to? Obviously, you'll have the stockholders of the company, but you'll also have like people like investment advisors. There'll be financial advisors that are going to read that report because they want to know about the company and how you're doing and your plans and all this other stuff. People within the company will probably read it. So, I mean, that's just 3 audiences right there. There might be, news media might read it because they might want to report on it. Journalists will read it because they want to see what it is because they're going to write an article about it or something. So you have all these different audiences. Well, having multiple audiences means you have multiple groups that might want different things from the same content. Okay, so that stockholders report, it might need to tell investors maybe about the health of the company. Okay, maybe that's what they're really interested in. But it might talk, it might tell a financial advisor about the future of the company. So, while a stockholder might be really concerned about what the current health of the company is, the financial advisor says, okay, what are you going to be like in the future, though? Maybe you're not doing too well right now, but maybe you need to get reorganized or something, and then you'll grow in the future. So these are different things that different audiences might want or need or look for in the same exact document. So obviously it makes it a lot more difficult to write when you have to write to a lot of different people than versus some stuffy professor. Again, they might need or want different information. See, the truth about academic papers typically is that your professors really don't care about it, or the professor already knows all about it. If you're in an accounting class and the professor, who's a professor of accounting, says, I need you to write a report about some type of deduction, right? IRS tax deduction or something. Well, there's a 99% chance your professor already knows everything there is to know about that thing. So you're not going to give that person any new information. Instead, your professor wants to see how much you know about something. Well, in the real world, we don't care about how much you know about something. Okay, what we care about is what we want. I say this looking ahead, that it's a very egocentric. Audiences are very, very egocentric. They will need or want specific information, and that's it. It's kind of sad to think that 99% of what you write in the real world probably won't be read. Instead, people are just going to look in your document and pick out specific things that they need, and that's all they're going to look at. But that's what writing in the real world kind of is. Writing in the workplace is about. It's getting away from this model of some stuffy professor trying to figure out how much you know about something, or you demonstrating how much you know about something, and instead just helping people do something. Okay. The audience is also very diverse and disparate. In other words, they're spread out, they're all over the place, and they're made up by a group of a bunch of different people that look a lot different. You'll have differences in culture, what their backgrounds are, where they come from. You might have a product that ships the same product that ships here in the United States, or it could ship and it ships to Mexico, and it ships to Brazil. Well, those are 3 completely different cultures, and even within those countries, you have various cultures as well. So cultures, this diverse amount of culture is something that you'll have to consider. Obviously, age is something different. If you had a product that you were selling to me and my 77 or 75-year-old mother, there's a big difference between us, right? And as audience members, we're going to look at this, whatever it is you write, a lot differently. We're going to act on it a lot differently. Also, role. Audience members have different roles as well, or different audiences might have different roles. For example, decision makers, somebody who makes decisions about something, and it could be something at a very high level. Maybe it's the CEO of a company that's making decisions about where they should put their or invest the company's money. Or maybe it's at a small level. It's somebody deciding what they want for dinner. Okay? But they're trying to make a decision. And so they are looking for specific information that will help them make that decision. Right? So trying to figure out what role is. What is their expertise? How much information do you have to give them? Right? If you were working for say you're an accounting professor, and you had to write a memo about something, you could probably leave off all the information about like what a tax deduction is, when it was implemented, blah, 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 and just get to the, the facts, the things that you want to talk about. Why? Because that person already knows all there is to know about that thing. They are an expert in it. On the converse side, if you are writing to an audience that doesn't know anything about it, well, then you have to introduce the concepts and the facts and the history and the background of whatever it is you're talking about, right? And this goes for not just the subject, but also about you, like who are you and how much they know about you, the topic that you're writing about, the document that or the genre that you're writing with, things like that. So that spans a lot of different things. Experience. What experiences do they have already? So, for example, somebody who has an Apple iPhone, all right, which I have, Apple iPhone right here. When I buy another iPhone, do you think I need to read the instructions about the iPhone? Probably not, because I already have this experience with the iPhone, right? However, if you were to give that iPhone to my mother, who has a flip phone, you would also have to drop the book on her and let her read the instructions from cover to cover so she understands what the heck this thing is, how to use it, things like that, okay? So what is their experience with the topic or the subject or with you or with your company or whatever? Something else to be considered. And it really comes down to a best guess. I mean, this is not a perfect or exact science. It is a science. I mean, carrying out an audience analysis, which some of you might be familiar with. If you're not, then go watch my lecture on audience. It can get you pretty close to trying to figure out who these people are. But there's no way of knowing for sure. I mean, you might be writing a set of documentation with the idea that your audience looks like this, but your audience is actually completely different than what you thought they were. And that happens. That happens in the real world all the time. It happened to me at IBM. It happened to me at White Sands. I get it wrong, and all writers get it wrong because, again, it's not exact science. It's not mathematics where we know what 2 + 2 equals. It equals 4. It doesn't work like that with writing, unfortunately. It's much more subjective. So these are all, considerations about audience. It's not just some stuffy professor that you have to, turn your first paper in to see how they do it and then react from there. Purpose, another big difference. First of all, purpose is egocentric, as I mentioned before. The purpose for writing just about anything in the university is to demonstrate how much you know about something. Now, it could be about the genre itself. Like if you're in a writing class and they ask you to write a report on dogs, they don't really care about dogs. What they want to see is that you can write the report. Okay. However, if you are in an animal science class and they say write a report about dogs, they might care about the dog part, not so much the report part, or both of them as well. In the workplace, they don't really care. I don't care how much you know about dogs, and I don't need to know how much you know about dogs. I don't want you to show me how much you know about dogs. I just want the answer to my question, that's all I want. I want information that will help me. It's all about me as the reader. Okay, so completely egocentric. They don't care about you as the writer. They don't care about your company. They care about having their needs and wants fulfilled, okay, and their questions answered. It makes it sound really terrible when I put it that way, but it's true. Very egocentric. It might be to learn things. I mean, sometimes we read to learn, but 99% of the time in the real world, outside of these hallowed halls, we are reading to do. In other words, I am reading to figure out how to run a piece of software, or I'm reading to learn how to operate a piece of machinery, or it's reading to do something. Even when I am reading to learn, it's so that I can do something, right? So I might read about crypto because I want to learn which one is best to invest in, and I'm going to use that information to then invest. So I'm still going to do something. Again, when we read in academia, when we write in academia, it's completely to show how much you know about something, but it might be so that you can teach somebody else about whatever it happens to be. But typically, again, in the workplace, it's so that we can know how to carry out something, so that we can know how to do something. It answers our questions. And again, in the workplace, we can typically be assured that the information will be acted on. When we write something, it's for a purpose. It's for something specific. If there's a memo that needs to be written, it's because we're maybe implementing a new procedure or a new guideline. I mean, like all the different mandates and stuff, all of that documentation about, masks and vaccines, stuff like that, it's not to teach us anything, and it's not to show us how much somebody knows about something. It's to get us to do something, get us to wear a mask, or get us to get a vaccine, or whatever it happens to be. But it's to be acted on, okay? And again, something sad to consider is that material will rarely be read. I think out of all the stuff, all the writing that I did in my professional career and that I keep doing in my professional career, hardly ever do people actually read it. Instead, they browse it. They try to find the information they need. Even in the technical documents that I've written, people will use the finder, Control F, and enter the keyword of what it is they need to know, go right to the page that tells them what they need to know, and then they'll leave. So stuff in the workplace is rarely read cover to cover. It's most often people are kind of hunters and gatherers when it comes to finding information. Next is content. So what's actually in the document? I just mentioned dogs, for example. Understand that the purpose and the audience will dictate it. You don't go into a professional piece of communication in the workplace with an idea of content in mind. Instead, you say, what does the audience need? What is it they're asking questions about? What is it they need to know? What is my product going to be about, and what are they doing with my product? Answering those kinds of questions will help you understand what it is you're actually going to write. Like, for example, iPhone doesn't come with a manual anymore. It might come with like an FAQ or maybe some troubleshooting tips or something like that, but there's not going to be a whole manual about it anymore. Instead, they write stuff based on what people have questions about. Content can also take many forms. It could be everything from instructions to a report to an analysis to some market research paper to a position paper to a speech to a grant. I mean, content can take all kinds of different forms. And these genres may be new or unconventional or situational. Here's an example of unconventional. What did I have for unconventional? All right, so this is IKEA's, one of IKEA's assembly instructions for this bookcase. Fairly simple bookcase, right? When I say unconventional, I mean that you wouldn't write like this at any other point unless you were writing this type of document. For example, you wouldn't have warnings in all of these different languages at the very beginning. I mean, who would do that? More warnings. Yep, more warnings. You wouldn't have this funny little IKEA guy when you were writing a note to your mom. You wouldn't have any of this stuff, right? I mean, so it's unconventional in that the only place that you would see this kind of content is in this type of document. And it may be situational. In other words, it might be written just for one moment in time, and it can only be used in that one moment in time. You'll never have to worry about it again. Content will demand research. When I first started working at IBM, my manager liked to say that technical writing is mostly research. She was right. I worked for this company called Hydrosleeve for a number of years, and I had to do all their technical manuals. Not only their technical manuals, their white papers, different instructions, but also videos, technical videos as well, how-to videos. Now, when I started working for this company, I didn't know anything about not only this product, the Hydrosleeve, but I didn't know anything about the industry, which is water sampling. And they do it for environmental reasons, right? They'll sample the water from a well to see if it's contaminated or toxic or something like that. So that's this entire industry. I know a lot about that industry now because I had to do a ton of research in learning just to write those manuals, right? And so I'd go back and forth with the people that worked at this company, and we'd go back and forth, and I'd go out and I'd do a lot of research, and they'd explain things to me. I'd interview them. I'd look at the equipment, look at how it works, watch them use it, videotape them while they're using it and stuff. And eventually I developed, certainly not an expertise, but I developed the knowledge, the domain knowledge required to write these documents. And it's going to be like that for anything, absolutely anything else at all. If you're a writer, if you're a professional writer, if you're a writing major, you know about writing. But when you get to the workplace, you're going to have to know about whatever that subject happens to be. If they make software, this is why I took all those programming classes, because I wanted to work in the software industry. So I wanted to know how software was made. I wanted to be able to share that knowledge with the people that program that software. So you're going to have to know about the content, know about whatever it is you're writing about, at least know a little bit about it. Things like plagiarism also have very, very different stakes. In college, plagiarism might get you flunked. It might get you a failing grade on an assignment. It might get you a failing grade in the entire class. Very worst case scenario, it might get you expelled. Doubt it, but it might get you expelled. In the real world, things like plagiarism have real consequences. Let's take the case of BlackBerry. Does anybody remember the BlackBerry? The BlackBerry was what they called a personal digital assistant and a telephone that was created by a company called Research in Motion back in late 90s, early 2000s. Now, this was before we had iPhones and iPads and all the rest of it. This was kind of the forerunner to all of that. The thing that made BlackBerry so popular was that you could email with it, because it kind of had its own server system, and you couldn't email with anything else at the time. You could text messages, SMS, short messaging service started to come along, but email was a big one. I remember President Obama had a BlackBerry. It was kind of a big thing because it was kind of a cool and hip thing to have at the time. Well, it was made by this company in Canada called Research in Motion. They unveiled it. They were worth billions of dollars because of this product. Problem was they ripped off the code for their product, because another small company found buried in the code for this BlackBerry, found portions of their code which they had patented before. Now, I don't know why Research in Motion chose to use their code, but they did. Maybe the programmers were lazy, or maybe they just couldn't come up with any other way to solve the problem, so they said, well, nobody will notice. I mean, after all, a program that runs this will probably have, thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code, so how could anybody find it? Problem was, another small Canadian company, I don't know if they're Canadian, but it was a small company, noted that the way BlackBerry and Research in Motion worked was just like the way their technology worked. And they're like, well, there's only one way you can do that, and we own the patent on that. So they sued them, and they won. They won for like $150 million or $300 million, or some insane amount. So those are the stakes for like things like plagiarism when it comes to content in the workplace. Okay, it's not just a grade anymore. It's much different, and we'll talk about stakes more in just a minute. Content can also be reused in multiple ways. Now, we don't reuse content in the university. In fact, we frown on it. We don't want you to turn in the same paper in different classes. Some define that as plagiarism, like you're plagiarizing yourself or something. I know it doesn't make sense to me either, but that's just sort of the way it works. But in the workplace, it's encouraged that you find shortcuts, right? Efficiency is an attribute. It's something that we want you to have when it comes to workplace communication. So content is often reused. In fact, there's content reuse is a whole segment of technical communication. There is a term called single sourcing, meaning that you could create a lot of different publications from a single source of information. So instead of writing a user manual and an installation manual and maybe a quick start manual, and instead of writing those 3 different documents, you would write one document and then just reuse pieces from that one document. I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to put it in the user manual. I'm going to take this piece, I'll put it in the installation guide. Take this piece, put it in the quick start. And so you have this one source that can then be used for a lot of different things. So content reuse is huge when it comes to the workplace. Media and technology. This is also a really big one that is getting more and more exposure, more and more notice, more and more research is being done on this. But know that writing can take multiple modalities, and your readings will really go into this. But writing can, that we think of it is writing, right? This is writing. Can you see that? This is a blinks the time sweep. No. Just want to sell Pandora tomorrow. So this has writing on it. And that's what we think of when we think of writing. Okay. But would we think of the video game itself? Like the stuff that's on this game, on this disc, would we think of this as writing? Not, and I don't mean the stuff that's like painted on here, but the data and the gameplay, the things that you do when you go through playing Splinter Cell, which is a great game, by the way. Is that writing? We had never thought of it before as writing, but more and more we're starting to think of these other modalities as a form of writing. In fact, I teach a class called Computers and Writing, and that's what it's about. It's about multimodal writing. So we're talking about video and audio and animation and graphics, and all of those things are now kind of considered different forms of writing. And you wouldn't do that really. We don't think of academic writing as that. Academic writing is typically writing a research report or a book report or these analyses that I'm making you do, right? These discussions I'm making you do. That's writing in academia. It's not this other stuff. Writing might also be accomplished through different technologies, things that you're not familiar with. There are, for example, specific editors and writing systems, writing technologies for that single source kind of platform that I was just mentioning, where you have a single source and you publish all these different documents with it. Well, that type of system uses a very specialized sort of technology in order to do it. So the media and the technologies that we use in the workplace will be completely foreign to us, because all we're really used to using are things like Canvas or Microsoft Word or things like that. In the workplace, obviously, we go a lot further. Now, stakes. I already sort of mentioned this with plagiarism, but these are the stakes when it comes to workplace writing. For example, employment depends on the writing. You know, academic writing is all about a grade, unless you are, again, unless you're getting you're doing a thesis or a dissertation or something like that. Your graduation depends on that. And I guess in a sense, your graduation depends on all the writing you do in academia, right? But it really all comes down to a grade. And say in the course of a semester, so in this semester, I'm making you write 16 different things, 17 different things, 9 discussions, 8 analysis, and then 1 collaborative. And that's going to be a pretty big paper. 1 collaborative analysis at the very end, a report at the very end. Now, in the course of this semester, if you miss 1 or 2 of those discussions, but you do great on everything else, you'll probably still get an A, right? So the stakes aren't that high. However, if you forget to write a memo or you write a report incorrectly or something like that in the workplace, well, then it might be a lot different. You might get fired. You know, if you forget to turn in a paper in class, okay, big deal. You forget to turn in a paper at work that they asked you to do, you might lose your job as a result. Also, lives may depend on writing. Let's talk about a set of instructions. Maybe there's a set of instructions that tell you how to operate a piece of heavy machinery. Well, there are probably a lot of warnings and a lot of ways in which you have to write that set of instructions so that people don't get hurt while they're trying to actually use that machine. Okay, that's an important consideration. And I would say the stakes are quite different in that case, aren't they? Finances may depend on writing. Again, a stockholder's report or a shareholder's report or something like that. That'll affect how a company does. Based on that report, people will invest in the company or they'll divest from the company or something like that. They'll buy products from the company based on that kind of information. So finances are huge, right? Somebody like like Steve Jobs, who made these big kind of over-the-top announcements at Apple whenever they would unveil a new product. Well, he was doing that because he wanted sales, right? Versus a company like Microsoft or other tech companies that would just release kind of a report about their new products. Now, Apple went over the top on purpose because they wanted to not only just to tell you about it, they wanted to sell you about it, right? And so finances would also depend on the writing. Next, process is a lot different. First of all, as I mentioned already, there's a lot of research that goes into workplace writing. Now, there's a lot of research, don't get me wrong, that goes into academic writing. If you're writing a dissertation, you're writing a master's thesis, or even if you're writing a big research paper like the one you'll have in this class, you'll be doing a fair amount of research. But the amount of research that you do in the process of writing professional documents is often much higher, much more in depth. I worked for that company, that Hydrosleeve company. I think I started working for them in 2012 as a consultant. They were just bought by another company, so I don't really do anything for them anymore. So a good 9-year run of me working for them. So by the time I got to the end of that run, I really did know everything about their product. I knew a lot about the industry too, a lot about sampling for environmental, water sampling for environmental purposes. And I still work for another company that teaches kind of the same thing. They teach classes about that. So I know a lot about the industry now. But it took me a long time to get to that level of knowledge. So research is a huge piece of the process. Collaboration is also a big part of the process. 99% of the students I know hate collaborative work, and they always hate it because they typically had bad experiences with it, right? And we've all had those collaborative groups. Don't be one of these people who never shows up to meetings, never pulls their weight, never gets things done, or does things really sloppy, and still they get kind of the same grade as the rest of the group. And it's not fair. Unfortunately, that's the system we have. Don't be like that person, right? But the truth is, writing, actually most communication in the workplace, professional communication, regardless of industry, 99.999% of the time, it's collaborative. You'll be asking people questions. You'll be asking them to review it. You'll be writing it with them. You'll ask them to look it over, to revise it, ask them for help. And it happens all the time, day in, day out, every day, while you're in the workplace. I do it myself here at the university. We write things collaboratively. If we have something that the faculty needs to put out, we're all getting together and writing it. And yeah, it takes more time sometimes, and it's kind of a pain to have a lot of people, making changes, but it really ends up making a better product at the end of the day. So collaboration in the process is another huge difference. Time is a big difference, right? Because, again, thesis and dissertation aside, you really only have 16 weeks to get something done. I'm going to assign you, less than that. Like you have a discussion due in 3 weeks for this class. It's about, due in 2 weeks. It's about the readings for this module. You've got 2 weeks to get that done. Okay. And then you'll move on. You'll probably forget about it. You'll never look at it again, and you'll move on to the next thing. All right. But again, in the workplace, you're kind of stuck with whatever it is you write for a long time. If you look at, for example, the knowledge base at our IT branch here on campus, people that take care of all the computers and stuff, they're called ICT. They keep a knowledge base of articles. Some of my students have written them. Some of my advisees have written those. But they keep a knowledge base of articles that help you do things like log into my.nmsu.edu or download your VPN, things like that, right? The technical knowledge you have to do things on campus. Well, those documents have been around. Those are legacy documents that have been around for years. And they just update them and they make changes to them as necessary, right? So there's really no start and stop, is what I'm trying to say on those documents. There might be starts and stops to certain things, like, again, an annual shareholders report. You have a year to get that done, and once it's out there, it's done. The thing is, though, if you're on the writing team for that company and you help create that annual shareholders report, what happens after that annual shareholders report is released? Well, then you start working on the next annual shareholders report, and on and on and on. So time is a much different topic in the process of creating professional documents. Also management, because not just like you have a manager and you have other people, everybody becomes a manager. Writers in the workplace have to manage what they're writing. So the things like version control, document control, time, maybe milestones, all of these things are things that you will be a manager of as a writer in the workplace. And that's part of the process of doing this, okay? So that is kind of the end of this presentation. Those are just kind of my quick hits of differences that I see in the workplace and things that I have seen in the workplace, more my observations. Your readings will go into a lot more detail, and I expect to see those details when you create your discussion for this module, okay? Let me know if you have any questions about the assignment or about the readings or about any of my statements or anything else. And again, let me know if you need to make an appointment for a meeting or something like that for class, okay? For that and for now, this is Dr. Lanier signing off. I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.